welcome to the Sharpe Club. A little bit past 9 p.m. on the East Coast on a Monday. I know you're saying, Larry, we hardly ever see you Monday nights anymore. That's because I'm lazy. I'm joking. It's because I'm busy, not because I'm lazy. I'm actually just crazy busy. 8 p.m. sometimes is tough for me, but I've made it this time, and I have a great panel this evening. I'm talking about an issue that many of you are dealing with, whether you are maybe a Gen Zer or millennial yourself, or maybe you're dealing with a Gen Z or millennial in your life, whether they're your friend, cousin, brother, sister, kid, whatever the case may be, and the issues they're having to deal with in this crazy, crazy world today. And I brought an amazing, great panel, people who I'm very happy. And if you like what they have to say, then you can just say something if you want to. It'd be amazing. First, the woman herself, the Creatrix, Brandi Bishop. She is a content creator. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I'm glad you're here. Also, an actual, like a career coach, like someone who actually does career stuff in this field. What? Did I actually bring an expert? I never do. But this time I did. Someone who actually does talk about this and deal with this in her day-to-day life, Victoria Passarella. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be your expert. This is my favorite topic in the whole wide world. So thank you so much.
There we go. But now we're going to lean on you. If you make any mistake, we're going to blame you. So that's how we do it.
If I ruin your life, I'm sorry.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. And also someone who's been working with millennials for a lot, someone who is close to my heart. He's actually a libertarian activist in his spare time, which he has very little of, but he does, the man himself, Angelo Mazzei. How are you?
Doing great, Larry. Thank you.
I am very happy that you're all here with me this evening. And look, what I want to start with is I remember when I was coming up, one of the biggest things people said is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I heard that all the time. But to be forward with you, I didn't believe it. I didn't. When I was coming up, I didn't. I thought, nope, it's doing good work and people will notice you and you'll get ahead and who you know didn't matter. Was I wrong? But that's what I believed. And as I got older, I began to figure it out. But I feel like now things have changed a bit. What I mean by that is, I feel like it's not as much who you know, but almost more who knows you. Meaning you're recognized in some way, like I have a Twitter, or I was at this place, or I feel like it's kind of swapped a bit. Am I wrong on this?
That's a great way of viewing it in terms of it's networking either way, but it's more about putting yourself in more of a position of control. And like, when, we throw around words like, things like personal brand and all of that. But the thing is now, because of technology, because of Twitter and websites and podcasts, like you can build your personal brand and make yourself known to people. I was the same, not the same way in the sense that I didn't believe it in terms of networking was important, but I just personally didn't grow up seeing it. So,
okay.
So my father is an immigrant to this country. He is from southern Italy, literally had an outhouse in Italy, came to this country, had to work immediately, didn't graduate high school, all that stuff. My mother's side was from this country, but she was the first girl in her family to go to college, and she became a teacher, and just not a field in which like networking is as you're thinking like cutthroat and all that stuff. It was just a very different type of path. So the world in which I was in, networking was done in a very like, oh, I know a guy who can help you with a thing.
Right.
Right.
But not like LinkedIn type of stuff or going to like a cocktail party or things like that. So it wasn't until I went to graduate school at Columbia and I worked in career education that the whole, it was a very like meta experience for me, because I was kind of like more of like an observer, like an alien observing, like almost like the science of networking. So for people, it is so valuable, but it's very foreign to a lot of people as well.
So Victoria, let me ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angela. Go.
Victor, did you go to Columbia, New York or Columbia, Chicago?
Columbia, New York. I went to SUNY New Paltz undergrad, and then I went to Columbia for 2 master's degrees while I was working there at the same time.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot in common. Both my parents are Italian immigrants.
There we go.
My mom's family is Italian. So.
Oh my goodness.
My God. All right.
So
but
much Italian people.
I'll join a little bit in that.
We'll adopt you.
My mother's a German immigrant, so I got something at least. We got some immigrants here, that's for sure.
We'll
Absolutely.
adopt you.
Yeah. So, Brandi, help me out here. You are online. You're doing this. Is this helping you? Because I think there's also a negative side to this, right? Because if you're known, you could also be pinned as, oh, you're the bad person for being known. So now maybe I don't want to get involved with you. I don't want to hire you. I don't want to work with you. I don't want to date you. I don't do any of these things because now you're this person online.
So I'm really big into networking. I always have been. It's how I've gotten like any opportunity ever.
Yes.
And I actually I make a joke that's like college is just a really expensive networking event.
Totally
that's
accurate.
that's what it was for me anyway.
Totally
I didn't graduate because I realized that it was a waste of money. Like once I was making more money outside, and because I'm an artist, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I wasting money going to school when I could just like network and do it outside?
Yep.
In regards to it affecting your reputation of being known when you're online,
Yes.
I mean, so I produce variety shows. So they're like burlesque shows, all sorts of stuff like that. I'm also
So that's risky stuff. Some people might think you're all risque now, right?
Oh, of course. So I have my like political kind of Twitter life, podcasting life, gamer, because I stream on Twitch, and then I have like my other life, which is like producing events and all of that stuff. They're very separate. I'm waiting if they merge. It could potentially be bad. I was canceled before too, so I actually
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have been canceled. That was just due to a personal Facebook post that I made on my page, and I actually I used to produce events for a different company, and people got mad at a Facebook post, and so they asked me to make a public apology, and I said no. So I ended up getting canceled. I
Yes.
couldn't, and so it does happen, and so I think networking is important, and being online I think can be detrimental. It's one of those things I'm still working through like now, where it's like trying to figure out, okay, do I just go balls to the wall and like fuck it, who cares what anyone thinks, or do I like keep them? Right now they're separate worlds, so I still don't know.
But isn't there an advantage there, right? And what I mean by that is because of how our media is so fractured, you could niche and not care, right? In other words, I could say, I'm only going to be whatever, the gamer person. In fact, you can even niche to, I'm just this type of gamer person, right? So not even just, I know there's a game called Civilization. It's a video game. Some of you may not know.
Favorite game.
There we go.
Civ 5 is my favorite game.
Yes. Civ 6 is mine, but that's okay. So yes, in the Civ community, there are gamers who only play Civ 6 and make a lot of money and are happy, and that's how niche. They play that one game only, and that's it. So I think you could actually do that.
Right? You're my best friend. Like,
I knew we were besties.
Civ? I knew we were besties. What was meant to be? You're just saying
Brandi,
Civilization.
do you want to do karate in the garage at Larry?
I gotta tell you, but I'm old school. I played the original board game from the 80s.
Oh wow!
Civilization board game from the 80s. Yes, I'm an old man. I actually played that. I did. So yes. Angelo, help us out here. You're out there trying to hire people, work with people. Is it good or is it bad, these people having this web presence? Is it helpful for you? Is it a bad thing? Is it good?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Please.
I've been in the industry 22 years now, and I'm about to take the next step. I'm about to buy into an existing restaurant and be a managing partner.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Or condolences. I'm not sure. It is a restaurant business. Maybe condolences.
No, I love it. I love it. You have to love it. If you don't love the restaurant industry, you have no business being in it. That's
100%.
But the hardest challenge, the biggest worry that I have, and I was pretty much on my way to doing doing a content entirely of my own creation along with my partner, and we simply couldn't show enough money to the locations that we wanted. And you wouldn't believe how much money it takes, but I won't digress into that. My worry wasn't the money. If I really wanted to, I could have gone out, found the partners, put together the $1.2 million, $1.3 million that I needed. And my biggest concern was the employees. Okay, I wanted to build a very small, intimate restaurant because I meant less employees and less people that I would have to hire and take chances on as far as their work ethic, which is the biggest problem.
Hardest thing. Oh my God, yes.
Hardest thing. I'm currently mentoring a young man. He's 23 years old, and ladies, I'm going to guess and say you're somewhere in your mid to late 20s, probably maybe 30 at the most, give or take. Does that sound about right?
I'll take it.
All right, fine. We'll go with it. We'll go with
34.
I'm 40.
You made both of them happy, Angelo. Well, you're going to be a good restaurateur.
Like,
Nicely done, brother. Nicely done. Nicely done.
My old charms are starting to come back, I guess. I don't know. But my biggest worry was is employing people. And this young man that I'm mentoring, he is thankfully, he has the want. He has the ambition. He wants to learn. He wants to do things. He wants
so let me ask this question. You got a good guy in front of you right now. Did you get that because you knew somebody who knew somebody? Was this a straight resume? Did you see him online? How did you get this guy in your world? This
was coincidental. We happen to work together currently, at my current place of occupation. But I spotted him in that sense. I knew within the first 2-3 days of working with him that he was definitely, he separated himself from everybody else. He had the go-getter,
this is what I want to bring up, Angelo. You are bringing up my biggest worry, which is this is not only how we find people to work with, it's how we find friends. This is how we find lovers. This is how we find romance, right? So if you would have seen him on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you'd had no idea what his work ethic is. Could have been great, could have been terrible, right? You have a friend. The guy might be a total jerk, right? A romantic relationship. You look at that picture. I mean, is he a great guy? Is she a great gal? Maybe, and then maybe they're jerks. We don't even know, right, if they are or not.
To your point, or what you're kind of highlighting earlier, Larry, is, is it better to have a persona that stands out amongst the crowd, as Brandi does, if you will, promoting yourself and making yourself known? Or is it better to the old school way, and I'm an Italian from Chicago, is, well, I just know a guy, right? I know somebody who knows somebody, and that's how I got in the door. That's how I got into the industry in the first place. The only reason why I worked at some of the best places in Chicago was because of that reason. But I also had the skill set to back it up, right? But this goes to show you that, look, you can only tell so much from a resume. You can only tell much even from a first-time interview. Show me the goods, right? So if you're promoting yourself on some sort of YouTube channel, well, guess what? You get a direct interaction. Well, you hope it's the real person. You hope that this isn't all, one big show and one big facade. But at least you're getting to see into that person's life a little bit as far as how they carry themselves.
Gotcha. So Victoria, you're the one who's actually, mentoring people through this. I mean, there's got to be a part of you saying, okay, don't go nuts online, but there's also going to be a part of you saying you got to be online. This has got to be some kind of balance here on what you do. Or are you saying, I mean, I've heard people say, you're looking for a job, scrub your social media, right? Scrub it all. I've heard that too. Tell me what the real deal is here.
Yeah, it's a catch-22, especially in the era that we're in right now, because the traditional world exists and this new frontier Wild West also exists. There's not a black and white, right or wrong answer. And I've even experienced it myself. Like, a big reason why I'm in the process of like relaunching my website and redoing all the things was because I took a hiatus, I guess you would say, to go back to a quote unquote, like working for someone else type of thing. Yeah. And when I did that, I tried to
went back to the grind.
Exactly. I tried to scrub everything as much as possible. And it wasn't emotionally and authentically the right thing for me.
Right.
So if you're the type of person who is creative or wants to help people or wherever you have particular interests and you feel like there's a way you can monetize that, there are all these avenues now that didn't exist before. But if you're someone that's like, and I do not mean this in a negative way whatsoever, because I can't count, if you're someone who's like, I want to be an accountant and that's what I want to do, I want the security of that, like I'm not into all that other stuff. If you're that person, And then, having all your political takes out there on Twitter probably isn't the best idea.
Right.
But if you're someone that's like, I think I could do this. I mean, and then there's a middle ground in the sense that you can have like an anonymous name, like you don't actually have to have your name on your social handles, things like that. And maybe like in the future you can.
So you can be a professional troll.
Yeah, you can kind of be a spy.
Brandi's liking that. She's like, trolling. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's go. Let's go. That's my shit.
You can be a spy. You can be like a 9-to-5 spy. So like in your day job, you're one way, and then behind the scenes, you're something else. But it's definitely challenging. Also because a lot of people are seeing, people get like Instagram famous or social media famous, and like they're seeing that, and they're seeing how wealthy they are. So it's confusing for people.
Let me be devil's advocate here. And what I'm saying is, why wouldn't someone, whomever this person is, rather put all their stuff out there and recognize that there will be many people who will be unhappy, who will not like whatever their idea is, their take is, their baseball team, whatever. But the person who does say, I like that, it's a better match, right? The idea of accepting, and this is hard for anybody, particularly got to pay bills, right? I got to pay bills. I want a job. I need a paycheck. I got to pay bills. But if I'm in a spot, if I happen in a spot where I don't have to pay the bills now, maybe I've saved some money up, or right now I'm living with somebody else who's helping me pay the bills, or whatever's my situation. If I don't, what about the other saying, no, I'm going to be me 100%. I'm going to look for a job being me, and I'm going to hope to find someone who goes, I'm happy that Brandi's half troll. I'm good, right? Like, I want that. I want half troll. That's what I'm looking for, right? So I'm going to wait for that, and I'm going to get it. Is that silly? Am I being wrong here? Anybody?
Well,
please.
It depends. I think it really does depend on what your vocation is and where you want to put.
Well, I'm going to go with Victoria. I'm going to say you want to be an accountant. I'm going to go that level. You want to be an accountant. You want to work in a firm. You want to be basically 9-to-5 plus overtime, right? That's your mindset, right? That's what I want to do. I want to be that person. And I'm still saying, maybe you should still do that and hope that, because when you get that job, the person will be like, no, I get who you are. I'm in. Or no, am I wrong? And look, you're 9-to-5, scrub it.
Yeah, I would have to say that I would scrub your entire social media. Way that most corporations are right now. Unless, of course, you get spotted by some sort of smaller private firm, then it's a different story. But if your goal is to put yourself out there in that, in the accounting world, the business world, what have you, and obviously you want a company that has the proper benefits. You want a company that offers, the 401k and such. Well, a lot of them, they pay attention to their ESG scores.
Yes.
And that is a big, big factor. Like, I guarantee that if a prospective employer would take one look at my Twitter feed, at first glance, an ignorant glance would say, nope, no way.
Got it.
I'm too vocal. I'm too opinionated.
I mean,
Brandi, go ahead.
Well, so I work in marketing, and
Excuse me for 1 second.
I actually, I don't think so. Like I said, they're two separate worlds, right? So how are they going to find it unless you have your name? Like, for example, my Twitter doesn't have my name in it. It's like you'd have to could do digging to like figure it out. I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult, but like
there are literally companies who do that right now. Like they literally,
it's not hard.
Their job is to just find your social media. Oh god.
Yes, that's literally their job. I used to work for a company back in the day that did.
Well, I'm unhireable.
You are unhireable, Brandi. Yes, you are unhireable. It's true. Yes.
And I would also say it's the type of industry. Two things: it's the type of industry you want to go into, and the topics that your interests are. So, for example, I worked my most like recent regular job prior to this was for a nonprofit organization, a local nonprofit organization. They were in whatever company that you're talking about, they were not hiring that person. They weren't savvy in that way. I'm not saying that they didn't Google me because I was Googled because it was like mentioned, something came up and I was like, oh wow, they know something about me that's personal. But it wasn't like they were going that extra mile. Right. But if you are working for a huge company or a company that does have those scores and is looking at that, then that's a different thing. Also, it depends on what your passions are. So, for example, if you want to have a public presence because you want to be known for knitting, like if knitting is your thing and you want to be in the knitting niche space,
yes,
that might be very, very different than giving your takes on politics. So it also depends on what your interests are.
I'm going to go down another level if I could. Now, people have asked me, and I've given them this advice, which is, do you want to work for a big company or not? Right? Do you want to work for a big organization, or do you want to work for like a smaller startup? What do you want? Where's your excitement level, right? What's your risk level? Where are you in life right now? And my answer has always been, if you're looking for a large organization, get a lot of education and be as plain online as you can be. That's your best chance of working for a large organization. Work for a big school, a big company, big agriculture, big pharma, whatever, do that. If you want to work for a small company, do not get educated. It's a colossal waste of your time. In fact, I know this 10 years ago, 50 years ago. In the high-tech world, if you had a master's degree, it was a no hire. Literally, master's degree, nope. So if you were in that small, I'm going to start the new app that's going to change the world. If you're in that world, education's useless. They don't want it at all. They want to see what you've done. That's all they care about, right? And or also have an online presence that is super aggressive, because they want you to be able to spread their new stuff to other people. So in that specific world, education useless. Big idea to have social media. The exact opposite for a big company. Lots of education. They're going to reward you for it, respect you for it, and kind of blanket. And then anything in the middle, you got to find that middle as you're going towards the middle, which is which. That's kind of what I've seen.
Yeah, and Brandi might be more aware of this from the marketing perspective. But then are also industries, like, for example, if you want to get a book published, not self-published, but get a book published, a lot of them will have, like, if you apply and put your manuscript up there, some of them will have places where it says like how many followers you have. Do you have a social media presence? Put your handles here. So for them, it's the complete opposite. It's like they want you to come to the table with a following. So it really depends.
But that's why you don't even need publishers anymore. You don't need publishers anymore. Publishers take all your money and just use your stuff. Does it make any sense?
True.
Yes. Yeah, it's terrible. Let me grab, if I could, a couple of comments. A lot of comments popping up here, if I could. Shut the Punk Up podcast says Larry the Legend. Oh, thank you. I'm a legend today. I do love that. Yes. We have a small problem already. It's already popped up. I gotta find it here. Jody says hashtag blame Victoria. So if something goes wrong, hashtag's already there, Victoria. Sorry.
Right.
Joe's already got you. Joe's already got you covered. That's it. There we go.
Sorry, Joe.
So, this almost not much alive. This is actually Michael Voss. He says, I'm curious, did everyone go to college for networking or the education? It was the education in the 80s, but I think it's far more social and connection based now. That's a good question. I went to college in the 80s, and I would say I went because I thought that it was the right thing to do. That's kind of why I went. I went to college late. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. I didn't go to college till the Marine Corps paid for it. I was like 20, 21 when I went to college. And I went to college at the University of Maryland, which is it's a college. It is. It is definitely a college. So I went to that kind of college. I got a degree in anthropology, believe it or not. Say again?
The Terps, right?
That's correct.
University of Maryland.
That is correct. The Terps, yes. And so we went there. I went there, and I never used my degree ever for anything ever. I went there because I thought I should. That was my networking was non-existent. I had a piece of paper that I guess was important to somebody, I think, maybe. That's why I went. Brandi, tell me, did you go? You said you went to college. You quit.
I did. So the best thing I got out of college, I actually joined a sorority. It was a local organization, and it was like a great networking experience. That was what I got out of college. All of my jobs, I lived in Portland, Maine. I went to University of Southern Maine. All my jobs were basically I got from those connections at that time. I became a photographer. I started doing nightclub photography for like $50 and free drinks, like just learning how to shoot photos, and like started to do it that way. And then eventually like started to get like more higher paying gigs and stuff. So yeah, college was 100% just networking for me. But I think it's really expensive to just go for networking. like maybe just go like hang out in the college town when you're 18.
Should do what I did.
Juan says, Larry is so right. As for IT director, Juan he does that. He actually hires IT people. He says most college applicants never get past the gatekeepers. Agreed. If it's tech, college is just not, unless you went to MIT. If you're going to the tech world, college is a colossal waste of your time. I don't mean to be mean to you college people out there, but if you're going in the tech world and you want to be cutting edge, no director gives a damn about your college. They care about what have you done. It's very specific for the tech world, and he's right. Yes, and again, I've hired and fired in that world. 100% true. They do. If master's degree, you're not getting hired at all in a tech company, right? But even college degree, maybe. But what have you done is much more important. He says, since I wanted tech people who are self-starters and have real life experience. 100% true. It's very specific there. But it's funny. I've also taught. I've actually trained a lot of New York City agencies, and I tell you, in that case, it's the exact opposite. I mean, if you don't have a college degree, they don't even want to look at you. Like they're like, it's the opposite. It's no degree, no hire. No degree. It's literally the opposite in that world. It's funny to see how it switches depending upon where you are. Victoria, you got a lot of college. Tell us.
Yeah.
You're the opposite. It's the opposite of Brandi. You got a lot.
Well, I love the question. Was it for the networking? What was it for?
Yes.
My first reaction when I saw that question was, it was initially because I wanted to get out of my house. Like I just wanted to go away to college. Like it could have been to the moon. Like it didn't matter. I was just like,
same.
Like it wasn't, and I wasn't looking at local schools. Like I wasn't looking to commute. I was like, I don't even care if they have classes there. I just need a residence hall somewhere. Right. That was the first motivation. And that's actually part of why I ended up going to New Paltz, which is a state university in the Hudson Valley, just because it's a beautiful community. It's a hippie town. It's just like a fun place to be. So a lot of the energy, but it's also, at its core, a small liberal arts college, which for me was the right fit because I loved the humanities and the liberal arts. And
yeah, but hold on. I get that. But then you went again. And when you went again, were you going because you were thinking, I'm going to learn some great stuff? Were you thinking, no, I'm going to network with the smart people? Were you thinking, I'll get a better job? I mean, you went again. So what was your reason for that? I think that's what Michael's trying to get. What was your reason for going on? What were you thinking?
Yeah, not only did I go again, but then I started working for the school itself. So the New Paltz experience was lovely. It was very transformative for me as a person, learning new concepts and all these different things. I realized something as we were talking, though, that in terms of like, do you go for the more like niche down controversial thing or not? When I never thought about this until right now, actually. When I was an undergrad, I actually did that on the campus. So this was to throw this word around, this was like pre-woke time, so I just need to put that disclaimer out there. But I was a women's studies major, never even knew that was a thing. Like growing up, that's not a thing. I was just taking classes and kind of stumbled upon it, and I'm like, this is fascinating. It's like the history of half the population, and it's interdisciplinary of sociology and all these different things. It was fascinating. So from that, I became a founder of the Women's Leadership Organization on campus, and get involved in all these like.
So hold on. So then, why didn't you at that point? And I'm not pointing a finger. I really want to know.
Yeah.
Why didn't you at that point say, you know what? I don't need to go to college anymore. I know what I got to know. I'm going to start a nonprofit, or I'm going to start a women's only business, or I'm going to whatever. I'm going to start training women how to do stuff. Whatever.
Yes. Oh my God, such an amazing question. So that was my long-term goal. I was like, okay, like I'm going to start my own women's organization, and I'm going to make it like savvy and not old-fashioned and like more appealing to men and women, and that was my whole thing. But I thought I had to go to either law school or get an MPA or what. I thought like, well, in order to do that, you have to do all these boxes.
Right.
So that's how I eventually learned about the nonprofit management program at Columbia. So that's kind of how that then snowballed that way. But it was coming from a place of, from day one, wanting to be an entrepreneur, but ignorantly thinking that in order to be an entrepreneur, there's these like boxes that you have to check off.
It's funny you say that, because most people think the same way you do. I get that all the time. People say, Larry, I want to start a business. I want to go to, they ask me, should I go to graduate school? I say, okay, great. What do you want to do? I want to start a business. Why are you going to graduate school? Well, I want to start a business. No, go start a business, right? Go start a business. Entrepreneurs hire MBAs. Entrepreneurs aren't MBAs. Entrepreneurs hire MBAs, right? They're not MBAs. So go take 2 years, fail at your first business. That's your MBA, right? You take the $200,000 that you would have spent on B school, put it into a failed business. You'll know more than anybody who comes out of B school. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's what I did.
All good. Oh, there we go, Angelo. Tell us your story. Go ahead.
So I had a small pizzeria for about, give or take, a year and a half, and I didn't have enough money going into it. I knew that, but I did it on a shoestring budget, and I had an opportunity to take over a space that was essentially rent-free for about 6 months, and I learned firsthand, what it takes, at least from that level, and I'm more prepared now than I am, in other words, if you were to hand me the money, 15 years ago, saying, here, Angelo, here's $1.3 million, go open up a restaurant, I would have lost $1.3 million.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But I mean, most likely, sure, you could always get lucky, but you don't. Luck is not a plan. It's not
That's correct.
Strategy.
Yes. Don't get me wrong. I want to be lucky, but it's not a plan.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
But by me losing roughly $10,000 then, it just made me all the more cautious and prepared and etc. for what I'm about to do right now.
Yeah. What you say funny is my first business failed too. I sold my first business off. I ran it for 2 years into the ground. But then actually when I started coming back up is when I sold it. But I sold it off as my first failed business. I will say that's my MBA, right? My first failed business is my MBA.
And I also
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick to all of that. I also think a lot of people, depending on your background, but I think for a lot of people coming from a first generation background or second generation background, or more of a working class background, there's more of a practical sense of things. Both you have to pay the bills. So who do you think you are that you think you could go dream something? Get a job.
True.
Get a job. And so it's just not seen as a legitimate thing. So that's a big part of it too. And even with myself, with my education and all that stuff, because I was working for Columbia for years, I got tuition remission when I first started out. I was working in residential life and housing, so I was able to hustle the system where I was getting housing through the job and getting paid for the job and getting the tuition. I wasn't a regular student. I was how could I make this work? So I still kind of had that blue collar navigation of it, and more an outsider looking at it, because I'm how can I make this practical, because I need to make this work for me. It can't just be a debutante and majoring in art history. There's all different ways you could approach education.
Absolutely.
So I think you just have to be grounded in reality, and
it's hard when you're an entrepreneur though, isn't it? Because you want the thing to be great, don't you?
Right. Well, you want to dream, you have to be ambitious, you have to dream, you have to envision what is it you want to accomplish, because if you can't envision it, it's not going to happen. Right. If you can't at least think about it in your own mind and see how it should look, rather, 1 to 5 years from now, it's never going to come to fruition, period. But that's why, I was going to college, just to go back to that topic a little bit.
Yep.
I was taking hospitality management courses, things that kind of applied to the fact that I was working in the restaurant industry, and I was actually promoting nightclubs at the same time as well. I was, doing that aspect of it.
So you were getting both.
Yeah. And I had a day job too. I was working nonstop, and I was working for a printing company as well during the day. So I really I wasn't sleeping. It's pretty much how it was. Yes. Which you have the energy then. I did. I had that kind of energy then where I could stay out till 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'm working in a nightclub. I think we can all understand what it is, things that are going on as far as that's concerned. Larry from New York, or since you spent a lot of time in New York, you understand what I'm saying. And that was a lot of fun, but trying to do that now, there's no way I could burn the candle at both ends. It's not possible.
I remember I was a full-time Marine and a full-time student. I was both.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep. Yes, 100%. But of course, I was also like 21. So it's fine. Right? I'm not 21 anymore. So yes. Yes.
So I had to make a decision, right? It was either I give up the job that makes me money. That was the bartending nightclub thing, if you will, which made me the most money. I give up my day job, which whatever, at the time I was making $14 an hour, if you can imagine that, whatever, 20 years ago, or I drop out of school and I keep both my jobs and I keep stockpiling money. Well, I just stopped going to school. I stopped going to college. Yep. And then eventually I stopped going to my day job because I couldn't do that either. Because I was making the money that was sufficient to not only sustain my life, but to make my life better as a 23, 24, 25-year-old young man. And just to tie in the whole relationship aspect of what we were talking about before, about networking and whatnot, personal or otherwise. Look, I worked in nightclubs and I was constantly around women. Okay. Or if you're a guy and you like whatever, there's every element you could possibly imagine.
It's okay to like women. I don't care if you're a guy or not. You're amazing. You can be a woman and like you can be a man and like women are amazing.
Right, whatever.
So,
but even for someone such as myself, and I'm not a shy person by any means, I'm a social guy.
I can tell.
Okay. It was hard for me, for meeting people in person, not because I didn't have the ability to communicate, because I always had that, but there's also other things that make you insecure about yourself. But the element that takes that all away, well, it's alcohol a lot of the time, right? We just
the social lubricant.
Social lubricant.
Yes.
You loosen up a little bit. You put your, you let your true self come out. Maybe you say something that maybe normally, I shouldn't say that because she or he might criticize what I'm saying, or it won't be funny, whatever the case. You just let it fly. You let it go. And you know what? If you make a gaffe, 2 seconds later, nobody's gonna remember anyway.
It's true.
So there's that element that's really missing from the Gen Z, millennial. Well, not so much the millennial generation, but more the Gen Z, because I have cousins that are 21, 22 years old right now. And when they go out, it's really a sad state of affairs. They're all on their phones. Yeah. Like they're at the same table, but they have their phone in front of them like this. And I'm like, well, why did you go out? Why did you leave the house? You should have just stayed at home like we're doing right now. All of you pour yourselves a drink. Like essentially what we were doing during COVID for some of us, right?
Do it.
Exactly. And the problem with social media and dating apps that are being used and have been used for the last, and I used them all. I used Tinder, I used Bumble, I used what was the one that was kind of like legit? eHarmony. And I would have, and thankfully I finally found my wife. I made a decision. I left Chicago, came to Scottsdale, thank you. And now we have a 5-month-old beautiful boy.
Nice.
He's the light of my life. But I use those apps for a better part of a decade. And I would have women, and this is where it gets really weird, is that, look, I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'6". I'm probably 138 pounds, give or take. I'm in shape.
You're not supposed to be able to date according to all the alpha guys. You're supposed to only be like 6'9", and that's the only guy who can date nowadays. Now, how do they all say?
I would go through these profiles of women, and they would have the height requirements on. I kid you not. This is one of the. I don't know if they still have, but eHarmony did minimum height 5'10". And she's 5'2".
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Look, I had women I would message them, and they would message back, and they would say, I really think you're cute. I like what you're all about, but you're just too short.
Yeah, but hold on. I want to touch this piece, right? Now, hold on. Touch this. This is a critical part. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, if they had met you at a club or at the store or at the whatever, wherever they were going, and you would have showed them who you are and you'd have cracked a couple of jokes, they wouldn't have cared how tall you are, right?
I had a puncher's chance in those situations.
Yes, you got a shot. You can get in there, right? Maybe win her over. You got a shot. But on the app, you got no shot. It's like, sorry, no.
I got this, I got this, and this isn't much. So,
Yes, absolutely. But there's another piece though, and I'm going to go one step further. We went a little bit to dating. I want to go back, but let me just go to the dating part. The other part is there's another issue here. What if you're actually famous or popular? So now I'm only 5'6" or whatever the height requirements. I don't match, but they see me online and think I'm making tons of money because I'm some popular YouTube guy or I'm some Instagram model or insert the thing here. And now they look you up and go, ooh, I'm going to date Angelo. Not because I like Angelo, because I think Angelo's got some cash, or Angelo can make me an Instagram model, or whatever is the thing she's thinking. So so the opposite could happen too, right? If you're popular, they might want to date you, and you might get the wrong girls who don't actually like you. Girls who just
you're attracting an element you don't want.
But yeah, I would say that also social capital isn't the same as financial capital. So a lot of people confuse the concept of social capital with financial capital. And it's like, actually, no, most of those Instagram influencers are broke as all hell. You know, like a lot, just because you have that social capital doesn't actually mean that they have like a functional business or anything like that, or they even know how to utilize that social capital and turn it into financial capital. Because like you can have both, obviously, but it doesn't always translate.
And we get them in. We get them in at the restaurant, Larry. Several times. If I were to mention where I work, you'd all recognize where I work. It's a very, very high-end steakhouse. Let's just put it that way. And this also ties in what we were talking about before, about being worrisome about saying certain things on social media or something that's going to be shared on social media. Do I talk about where I work? Do I mention where I work? Because I know people know it. This is a very good question. And do I have to worry about my employer coming back at me? Oh, well, we heard you mentioned us on some interview or what have you, or some forum. Well, we don't approve of that. And now what?
Right. Absolutely. I agree. Yes. All right, guys, let me talk to my audience for a second, if I could. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, do me a favor, click the like button. I always bug you, not because I'm bored, because it matters. I have to get past Al Gore, the algorithms. I have to get past them. So please click the like button. It's the only way I get past them. Please do that. If you're watching on Twitter, then retweet this right now. You're saying, but Larry, I can't retweet this. I may miss something you say that's cool. I'll say some cool stuff again. Just retweet. That's what I want to hear. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, you can always super chat me if you like to support the show. If you want to support the show directly, you can. If you want to, patreon.com/Sharpeway. $10 a month's a lot of money. No, it isn't. It's good for me. I need it so that I can do this and not go consult and train people and stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So come on, $10 a month. It's good. But no matter what you do, whether you support me or not, these three amazing people are giving us their time and energy. They're showing us some love. So show them some love. Please follow them. You can follow Brandi at Creatrix_TTV on Twitter, or you can head over to, if you want to get over Instagram, and you can follow Victoria at Brooklyn Ivy League. And also follow Angelo on Twitter at Libertarian REA3. Please follow them if you can. It does matter. It is important. Let me grab a couple more comments. I got a bunch of comments if I can. And Shelly says, gold diggers suck, both male and female. This is true. She's not wrong. Yes. Mike says, congrats on the child, Angelo. There we go.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yes. Joe says, I'm 6'3" or so and didn't do so well in dating. So size doesn't matter. Well, there we go.
Riz is everything. It's all about the Riz. I'm going to use Zoomer
It is
talk.
about the Riz. That's true. It is. It is about the Riz. That's true.
why the dating apps struggle.
Yep. Shut the Punk Up says, relationships in 2023 have been narrowed down to the swipe of a finger. People in our age group need to go out, touch grass, and work on their real-life communication skills. All true, but man, that's hard. I mean, I'm going to bug you for a minute, Victoria. You've got to, when you're talking to people, they've got to be telling you or pushing back when you tell them to go out and meet people. They've got to be pushing back on you, right? And saying, why? I'll just do LinkedIn, or I'll just do whatever, or I'll just have a Facebook post, or that. Am I right?
Yeah, and the timing of this conversation, like the universe planned this, because
I like that.
I really do believe that, because this week, so I wrote a networking guide that's on the Brooklyn Ivy League website. It's free to download.
What's the website?
So it's brooklynivyleague.com.
Easy. Okay.
And you go on it, you click download, it's there. It's a whole networking guide, but it literally is a step-by-step of networking, but to your point, it's how to then get outside, basically. Right. So how do you either build a network if you don't already have one, or people that you already know of, but then how do you basically ask them to do an informational interview, which basically when we think of, getting coffee with someone, or going to their office, the guide is literally about how to get coffee with someone. It doesn't literally have to be about coffee. It could be over video, but just the idea of that personal interaction. And the guide literally has email templates on it, everything, because it could be intimidating for a lot of people.
Yes.
But to your point, especially now, there's a lot of people who just haven't actually interacted with people.
No idea how.
So something like getting a cup of coffee is a huge thing for them.
Yes. For a thing that I use that may be good for you is when I was teaching networking years ago, I would talk about getting coffee, and I would say, here's how I define getting coffee. Short meeting, no food. That's how I define getting coffee. We go, I don't like coffee. I don't care if you get coffee, idiot. I don't care. All I care is it's a short meeting with no food.
Yeah.
Have whatever you want. You want to have tea. You want to have water. I don't care. Do it online.
Yeah.
Coffee means short meeting, no food. So
and also being comfortable with the person not emailing you back. So it's really about casting a wide net. So let's say you reach out to, make up a number, 100 people, but if 10 of them get back to you, that's a win. Like, it's really about managing expectations, and it's very similar to dating and dating apps. Like, there's so much overlap with building your career and networking and romantic relationships. There is so much overlap, but we don't talk about that as a society. We keep them as 100%. Two completely separate things. Both like the skills of putting yourself out there and all that stuff, but also kind of how you.
I'm going to give you a little bit of insight and stuff that I've done in the past.
Yeah.
If you don't know what I've done, I've been a consultant for almost 20 years now, and sometimes I would do, I'd actually do some family work. I can't say therapy because you can't be a therapist in New York State without having a license. So fuck that. So I've done some family work, and I've done some other work with people, and I would actually help women get married in New York City, which is very hard to do. For those who don't know, New York City is a terrible place to find a man. It is terrible to find a man if you're a woman in New York City. And the reason is there are a gazillion, this is a mecca for talented women. So there are a gazillion talented, smart, savvy women in this city. There's so many of them where they think, well, I'm a catch. Yeah, in Cleveland, Ohio, you're a catch. In New York City, there's 25 of you around the corner. There's just so many people, wonderful women who come here. And so I would talk about ways to meet men. And one of the things I would tell them is go to professional events outside of New York City and meet men at professional events outside of New York City for two reasons. One, when you're a professional from New York City, not New York City, you're special. Number one, oh, you're from New York City. Now you're special. Number two, you don't compete with the local guy because he doesn't work in New York City. No competition. And number three, he's meeting you talking about the business, not saying, so you think about getting married? That's not coming up. He's talking about business. You get to know the guy. He gets to know you to see if there's actually any chemistry there. And is that what you're saying? I would tell women, go meet people in a business environment so it's not a meat market. And so if there is no connection, no one's angry because you never started romance, right? Yeah. So if you talk and I don't like the guy, whatever, it's fine. I was talking about business anyway, so who cares? You move on. No one's upset. I go to a bar or a club and I turn a guy down. Now he's pissed off. He's angry. He's hurt. It's not hurt if I'm at a trade show, right? He doesn't care. I'm trying to sell him widgets. Who cares? So yes, I'm sorry. I'm yapping just because I've actually got 3 women married off in the last couple of years. I've actually been pretty good at that. Anyway, that's one of my tactics that I use. Free advice, women, if you happen to be in New York City, enjoy. That was free. So yeah.
And in both LinkedIn and dating apps, so let's just compare, let's say LinkedIn and Bumble.
Sure.
There's so many similarities in the sense that they're new. I don't mean new that they were made yesterday, but new in the course of human history. I mean, we talk about like the printing press and the telephone. Right. To me, and like the world in which I'm in, those tools are complete game changers. So you can be someone who is originally from Kansas and moved to New York, let's say, to stay in the New York theme, and through LinkedIn, casting a wide net, putting yourself out there, you could potentially meet a lot of people professionally, but also by using Bumble, man, woman, it doesn't matter. You can meet people that you never, ever, ever, ever would have had a chance to meet with, whether it's socioeconomically or their fields.
I want to cover that in a second. Let me grab a couple of comments, then I want to go to dating. Couple comments, then I'm going to go dating. Couple comments that completely off track, which I love. Dave Jones says, Civilization 4 is my favorite game. I like Larry also played the Civ board game. See, David is my, I actually have it, but there's actually an offshoot of the Civ game called colonization, I think it is. There's an offshoot of it. There's like another one just like it. But anyway, board game, yes. Civ 4 was good. I think Civ 5 is good. Civ 6 is still my favorite.
Wow. Civ 2 was great. Test of Time. Did you play that one?
Civ 2 was my first one. Good.
Yeah.
Correct. That's when it started getting good. That's when it got good. And Civ 7 is coming out, I think, in 2025.
Yeah.
So Civ 7 will be coming out soon, 2025 or so. So
me and Blair, are we gonna play? We gonna do a live stream, play some Civ?
We're doing it. You got it.
Let's do it.
100%.
I'm excited.
Yes. Yes. Shut the Punk Up says Civ 5 is king. So that's nice. I love that. There we go. We got some Civ players here. Now let me grab some people talking about business here, if I could. Dave says, there are books on how to operate a food truck that will be a lot cheaper than a college MBA. True. Yes, absolutely true. Yes. Mike says, great business owners and politicians tend to lose horribly the first time, or even two they try. Degrees are worthless versus real experience in 90% of occupation and careers. However, I think in practice that may be true, but the value that many people see in a degree is not the actual experience that you gain, but twofold. One, that you were able to finish it does have value to people. And the second thing, when I used to teach at Columbia and Yale, the first thing I'd ask people, I'd say, what else are you doing? They say, what? I'm going to school. Yes. What else are you doing? Well, I'm going to school. That's it? They go, well, yeah. It's Ivy League. I'm going to Columbia. Yeah, and there's 700 of you graduating every damn year. So your degree has value for 2 years, and that's about it. What else are you doing? Look at your resume. I don't want it to be blank for those 2 years.
Yeah.
And to your point, Victoria, you did a lot of stuff while you were at school. People don't, and if you don't, I think Mike is closer to correct. Am I wrong on this?
That's the thing that's so important. So, with the career counseling I do, which is all ages, but a big chunk also, I mean, for years has been the college demographic, has been, I don't even view, when someone's working with me, I don't even view their major as anything. Like, it's I'm not saying it's not a valuable part of the pie chart, but just because you go to college, you can have even 4.0 and just go to class and go to sleep and that's it. And now you have a blank resume and no one cares. So the employer much rather have someone who has a B GPA. And here's the thing, except for certain fields. So there are certain fields that might be finance, more technical, where they are looking for the GPA on the resume. But there's
engineering.
But most fields, they don't even care. They don't ask for your GPA. So if you have a B plus, you graduate with a B plus GPA, but you were the president of this and doing this and doing this and doing this, and basically using those entrepreneurial skills, team building skills in the safe ecosystem of a college campus. Now you're using college for something that's practical and you have those real world skills. But if you're just going to class and that's it, then it doesn't matter. And you're also not discovering what you're good at, what you like.
Right.
You might realize, I am an extrovert. Actually, I'm more of a behind the scenes person, or I love organizing things, but you don't get that. It's that extra experimental experience in the college campus. It's not just what's in the classroom.
Right.
That translates to the career. And I, particularly working in career education in the Columbia Barnard world, organizations, companies like major consulting companies like McKinsey, things like that.
Oh, you have to have it for them.
It's like, it's a different world. And that was one of the things that for me personally, just coming from like, my background, I didn't know any of that stuff. Yeah. I didn't know how that was.
So let me get what Paula says. Paula says, my BA served its purpose because I work for corporations that wouldn't talk to you for management if you didn't have a bachelor's. And that has been true 100%, right? So
like McKinsey will only recruit at certain campuses. They don't even 100%. They're going to the campuses and they're looking for someone with an amazing everything on their resume. So again, our point before, it really has to do with what direction you want to go into.
Roy says, what was more valuable to your business, Larry? College or BNI Chapter 1 network in New York City? By the way, if there's no, BNI is the largest networking company in I think the world, but for sure the country, but I think the world. It's Business Network International. I was in BNI for 14 years, 10 years, a long time. And I helped to kind of reboot BNI Chapter 1 in New York. And I got to tell you, if you don't know how to network, like if you don't know what to do, how to act, you cannot beat BNI as a boot camp to learn how to do it. For those of you who are out there looking, it's a great organization. Some people stay for a long time, some people don't. I know Rory's been in Chapter 1 for like 45 years. I'm teasing him, but for a long time. And BNI is basically a situation where every 1 day per week, you get together with the same people, all of different jobs and different industries, and you talk about how to refer business to each other. It is a very good system. For those of you who don't know, it's an amazing system. I could not be where I am today without BNI. I built my entire networking class that I taught at the graduate level because of my time at BNI. That is how good it is at doing it, right? It's amazing, great. And Chapter 1, by the way, is the best chapter. Why? Because I deemed it so. That is why it's the best chapter in all of New York. So thank you for that, Roy. I appreciate it.
Larry, is BNI like a company called Visage?
It's similar, yes. So, but Visage is more of a C-suite level, right? It's more of a C-suite level, and individual people run it almost like a franchise. BNI is actually a company where anybody comes, like sales reps will show up, right? Okay. Visage is much more picky on who they select. And Visage is more about larger people having bigger deals. BNI is about people just making transactions, right? So if you're like a real estate person, if you're selling, to restaurants, great place to get in there, knock it all out. So yes, it's a different style, but yes, similar in idea, absolutely similar. So I do want to move, if I could though, to relationships. You brought it up. And why does I want to bring this up? For two things. One of you, I forgot, I think it was you, Brandi. I'm not sure. You said, it's hard to, get rid of or scrub your social media. Well, I think that works not just for business, but also for relationships, right? If I'm trying to meet somebody, right? I'm trying to meet my next girlfriend, right? Whoever that person is, they're going to judge me by my social media, right? I don't like Larry because he did this. I don't like Larry because he says that. So I am going to get judged by it. On the reverse, they also might think, to your point, Brandi, well, Larry's popular, so he must be filthy rich because he's got a cool show. I'm not filthy rich, but they might think that, right? I'm filthy rich, that too, so I could have that worry. Or the reverse. What if I don't like my would-be girlfriend's social media? What if I think she has too many guys following her? Or I think she looks too sexy and I'm jealous now because she's looking too sexy. I don't like that anymore. All those things. Isn't that going to be a problem too?
Well, so personally, when it comes to like me making spicy takes, anyone that I date has to be like okay with that, because that's just like baseline. You got to be cool with me being a little bit of a troll, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is an issue in regards to girls that post, scandalous photos. I think that's like a whole new development now where guys might get upset about that, especially now with OnlyFans and all that fun stuff. That's like 2020.
I wasn't even going to OnlyFans. I was just saying regular. I wasn't going to OnlyFans. I was just going regular.
Just a regular picture. I mean, that's Yeah, I mean, that definitely.
Hold on, but let's be fair. A lot of particularly younger women are using Instagram or TikTok, and it's not OnlyFans, but they're doing some explicit stuff that a more conservative or gentleman may not be happy about.
Yeah.
I'm just being serious, right? Some may not care, but some would. Aren't I? If again, male or female, in this case, we're talking female. Aren't I by default, because of my footprint, social media footprint, making the amount of people I can get smaller?
For sure. I think that's why people actually should care about that. Like, I think that for me, like, if you're going to have a social media presence, like, you clearly should think about, like, okay, what am I making myself be perceived as for, like, a potential partner or whatever. I feel like with that, I care less because, like, who I put myself out there on social media I'm not really hiding anything. Like, I'm not, like, posting, like, sexy photos or anything like that. So, like, that's not stuff that would worry me as much as, like, a business, because, like, companies, obviously, you need to have, like, a business professional kind of perception. Right. So I see it a little differently. Like, but yeah, I mean, that's why I think when you are posting on social media, you have to kind of think about that stuff. But when you're 18, you don't think about that stuff. I'm very happy that social media wasn't what it was when I was in high school as it is right now, because my footprint probably would have been a little rough. probably a little embarrassing. I'm glad that, like, the camera pixels weren't so high. You know, like, I don't know. like so I think that's that for this upcoming generation, something that they have, it's unique for them, I think. Because even as millennials, we had MySpace, like, we kind of had it, but, like, it's not even close to what it's at right now. Like, these people could do something embarrassing when they're, like, 12 and it go viral and everyone sees it. Like, can be, like, life-changing for a kid, or can feel even if it's not, even if people forget in a few years, that can feel life-changing.
Let me go to two parts, right? The first part is the idea that now I'm afraid now to even try, because if I make the mistake, whatever the mistake is, it's forever, right? As stupid as the dumb things that I did when I was 17, 18, 19, nobody's ever going to see. And if they say I did it, I'll call them liars. I never did it, right? So that's it, right? No one's going to know, right? I mean, unless I want them to know, right? But no one's going to know these things. But if I'm 17, 18 now, and I do something stupid, oh my God, my friends are going to be going, look, Larry, look, he's doing dumb stuff. Everyone's going to see it. I'm going to be. So now I'm afraid. In fact, I'll go one step further. You see now young men, more than anything else, afraid to even talk to women because they're afraid they're going to get dragged online if they don't do it right? And young men suck at talking to women, right? We don't know how to talk to women. We got to figure it out. So we start talking to the women and we suck at it. And back in the day, you sucked at it, she laughed at you, whatever, and you got better, and hopefully you got some riz eventually. Hopefully you did. But maybe not, but hopefully you did. But now I'm sitting here trying to do something, and I don't learn anything, and all of a sudden now I'm on Instagram going, look at this creepy guy, and now nobody loves me anymore.
I know, that's actually super sad. Like, where people will, like, record people in bars, be like, look at this loser, and, like, post it online. That's just so mean. And I worked as a dating consultant, actually. That was, like, a job that I had. I have had a lot of jobs. That was one of my jobs. And, like, I used to, like, go out with guys to go meet girls and stuff. And it was, like, dating consultant, professional wing woman. And so, like, it's like, I would always say, it's throwing darts. You got to get used to rejection. You're going to get rejected all the time. Just, like, brush it off. Just pretend like it's not a thing. And but girls would be so mean, like, and it's so mean, like, to guys. They'd say, like, really mean things, wouldn't even give, like, the guy a chance to talk to them or whatever. Which personally for me, I think, like, you could at least just be cordial. Like, you can turn someone down and be, like, nice about it. You don't have to be a bitch, you know? But yeah, now people are recording it and everything. That sucks.
So that was my worry. My worry is now with social media, the way it is now, that you're going to find a lot of, and I think you see it's happening, right? One of the outcomes in the Gen Z world more than anything is men not having sex, right? That is an outcome, right? Men are just not, in fact, about 7 million men have just checked out, period, out of America, right? They're just done. So a lot of young men are just not having sex at all. But a lot of women still are. So that means, in fact, more women than ever are having sex. In fact, women now actually cheat more than men do if they're under 30, right? So that's how bad it's gotten. And I think the thing is, you find that means two things are happening. Younger women are dating older men, right? It's not them all. So 20-something women are dating 40-something men, and there's like 2% of the alpha males, the top dogs, they're having sex with all the women, which is also one of the reasons why there's a huge increase in STDs in the under 30s. Why? Because the one guy's giving it to everybody. So because all the women are sleeping with him, they're all sleeping with him, right? So that's happening constantly. So this scares me, and I think it's what Angelo talked about. This is, in my view, and tell me if I'm wrong. Victoria, you're in this. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. I feel like a lot of this is because of the apps. That the apps are making it to where the women are just looking for the hottest, tallest, sexiest guys with the most money. And that means either he's a hot looking guy or he's older and he's wealthy. Am I wrong?
Well, no, you're definitely not wrong. I have a very love-hate relationship with apps for various reasons. I think they're amazing, but for everything that's amazing about them, I have a critique as well. Yeah, so I mean, I know so many people with this experience myself that because of the apps, again, similar to LinkedIn, when you met someone pre-LinkedIn, so all of human history until now, you knew them because maybe you were in a tribe of 25 people, maybe you were in a tenement building, maybe it was your high school, maybe it was a friend of a friend. That was it. So you weren't like assessing people, like, could make an Excel spreadsheet of who's this and all these different things. But
you didn't have a roster.
You didn't have a roster, and that's a word that people use now. But there is this huge contrast because you have the people, like you said, not having sex at all.
Yep.
And then you have the other side with the roster, and that middle kind of normal part is disappearing. And what will happen is, and I'm saying this from a very New York metro area perspective, so that's the bubble that I'm in. But if a guy has on his profile that he is clues that he is successful or whatever the case may be, he's going to statistically just have access to more people. And it's not even necessarily a quote unquote gold digger thing. It could just be someone that you have a woman or a man or whatever.
No, I don't think it's bad for women to have preferences and want to have, powerful, attractive men. I think men have preferences too. They want hot women. That's not a bad thing. It's just human nature. But to your point, right? And the two reasons why I don't like the app is two reasons. One, without the apps, right? If I was the cool guy in high school, I was not the cool guy in high school. But if I was the cool guy in high school, then I could get a lot of girls because I was the cool guy in high school, and the girls would go after me or a couple other cool guys in high school, right? So like 3 or 4 or 5 cool guys that could get a lot of girls. And if you were an average guy, some girls would go for you because they didn't think they could get the cool guys. So they would go with the average guy. It'd be fine. But now if I'm looking online, I can get the hot guy from the other high school or the other school or the other place. To your point, I'm seeing out there and going, I don't want this guy. So he plays football. He's not the coolest football player, right? So that's point number one. Point number two is, if again, in my smaller area, my neighborhood, say in the Bronx or my neighborhood in Queens, there were some decent looking guys or gals in the area. That's, say for the opposite, I'm looking for girls. There's some good looking girls in my area. I'm going after those good looking girls that I like, nice, happy girls that I like. Or I go on Instagram and I see 40,000 hot chicks. Well, I don't need this one. There's 40,000 on Instagram. Right? So I feel like that there's always something better. And here comes the second part. Now I'm dating some lovely lady. Something goes wrong. As in all relationships, something always goes wrong. The question is, how do you handle when something goes wrong? Well, if I think there's 4 more girls and the grass is greener, I don't try to fix anything. The second it goes wrong, next. I'll just grab the next one on Hinge or Bumble or whatever is the thing I'm looking at. So
and
both of those is bad.
Ghosting is huge. So the same way that roster, like saying roster is a thing, ghosting is a thing. And going back to what I said before humans, you were in your tribe, you were in your building, whatever it was, you couldn't just ghost. There was consequences to your actions. You couldn't just hurt someone or be like, I'm not, maybe I slept with this person, but I'm not really into it. Bye. Where now people get ghosted all the time. And it also, I think the ghosting also speaks to people not feeling comfortable having human conversations. So it's like, I'll just shut my phone off and block this person and just, they might be crying, I don't care, versus like having to actually deal with, like you said, all relationships have challenges, dealing with the actual consequences, the pros and cons of a relationship, instead of just hopping to kind of dopamine hit. And so you have that whole area of society, and then you have the incel part of society where it's not happening. It's so bizarre.
Well,
let me grab Angelo. You have a question, Angelo. Angelo, did you meet your wife via app or in college or via work? Mike wants to know you, Angelo.
At a karaoke bar.
Hey, that's the place. That's the place.
Yes.
Everyone karaoke.
Angelo, you just made everybody's night. Well done.
Yes.
You just
and
made
my wife.
Victoria's like, yeah, she's liking it too. We're all winning. Win-win. Yes.
She was good and drunk, which is probably why she thought I was attractive.
Here we go.
And
she just drank you handsome. That's all. She drank you handsome.
Exactly.
That's all. Yes, exactly.
I walked in and she was singing Mr. Roboto. That's your area there, Larry.
Yes.
Yeah, she was.
Sticks.
And she was crushing
That's the band, Sticks. Yes.
It wasn't that she was singing; she was crushing it. I mean, I'm like, how are you doing this right now? like, boom, on point. So she came off stage and
hold on 1 second. Yeah, I believe the name of the album was Kilroy Was Here. I think that's the name of the album. Yes.
Correct.
Please keep going. Yes.
She came off stage. She just, I said to myself the moment I saw her, I'm like, well, if she's got the courage to sing that song in front of a crowd of people, drunk or not, and she's easy on the guys, I think I'm gonna talk to her. So
there we go.
Yeah, she walked off. She finished the song. And she was at the bar, and I, started a quick conversation, and here we are.
And there we go. You could have never found out about her on an app, right? You had to see her do it and be impressed by her in that regard. How could you say an app? You couldn't.
I think people are getting burnt out on the apps, though. Like, I'm pretty sure that the apps are down right now. And I just found it said, according to a survey of college students' dating views, nearly 80% respondents said they do not use dating apps regularly. Only half said they met their partner in person, compared to 15 who said they met on a dating app. And as someone who has used them but never really successfully, because I prefer to meet people in the wild, I like doing that. What I experience on them is I get overwhelmed. Like, because guys do this strategy where they just swipe right on everyone. So you just get bombarded with matches, and I'm just like, oh God, I can't.
Okay, hold on. That's not a Hold on, that's not a strategy. We really just want to be connected. We're just not. I don't mean to be mean on this. I'm being very forward on this to understand this. It isn't men are just doing that. The reality of it is, and I'm going to tell you something that women may not get this. Women tend to want very high men. They want 9s and 10s. Women tend to want very high men. Men don't. Angelo said it. She's easy on the eyes. We look at someone who we want to be with. We look for someone who we like. We want someone to connect with. If she's a 10, a lot of men don't want her because everybody else wants her. So we actually are looking for women who are just 6s and above. I'm not trying to insult them, but that's a good thing. I'm not joking. I'm just going to tell me every man who's listening, 100% true. We actually are happy to have a 6, a 7, an 8. No worries. As long as she's good to us, she cares about us, we connect. Angelo obviously was moved by her strength or by her singing. He was moved by that. And I'm not saying his wife is a 10. I've never met her. I have no idea. But the point is, whether she's a 6 or a 10, he still would have gone after her. That wasn't the issue. So they're not swiping because it's a strategy.
No, I know guys that do say that it is. Like they actually do. Yeah.
Yes, but those guys are not the guys you want to be dating.
Exactly. But
Yes.
it just is overwhelming on the
Correct.
app when you have like a bunch of matches. Like I find it overwhelming, so I just don't even. I didn't even
Yes.
use them. I met my
Joe
boyfriend at a
literally says-
libertarian event.
He says literally, yeah, I don't want to 10. He literally said it.
Interesting.
It's too much trouble.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes, I'm agreeing.
Too much trouble.
100%. And the worst part is if it's a woman who's a 10 and she knows she's a 10, disaster. I want nothing to do with her. If she's a 10 and she knows she is, no thank you. If she's a 10 and she doesn't know she's a 10, yes, please.
this is very different than the red pill perspective, Larry.
Yeah.
Yes. No. But again, a lot of red pill men don't actually want a woman.
Oh.
Yes.
A
What do
lot
you
of them
mean?
actually don't want a woman. Remember when it comes to something to remember. All heterosexual men want a woman. They desire a woman.
Yeah.
But men don't like women.
Mhm.
There's a difference, right? Desiring a woman and wanting a woman doesn't mean you like a woman, right? So you want a man who likes you or likes a woman. There's two types of liking: men who like women and men who like their woman. Both are okay, but you don't want a man who just desires women or desires you. He has to either like you or like women.
Very true.
Clearly, because you can see how Angelo met his wife. He likes his wife. A lot of men don't like their wife,
That's true.
right?
It
They
affects-
desire their wife. They don't like their wife. You want to find a man who either likes women or who likes you. And that's an important distinction. Does that
Can
make
I bring
sense?
something up?
Yeah.
Please, go ahead.
So case in point is when it comes to sex, and obviously sex is a major part of any a private relationship,
course.
a business relationship. That gets weird.
Well, could be, just saying. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, could be. The more you get to know somebody, the best love that I've ever had, physically speaking, physical love that I've ever had is because I was in love with that person. And I'm not saying I've had a plethora of different women, what have you. I've had my fair share, probably more than some. And that, that lust, that is what Victoria was talking about, just that next hit of dopamine. That's all that is, and that's gone.
Yep. Goes away.
It's nothing meaningful. Nothing comes from that.
Yep.
And when I want to be intimate with my wife, as we just had a child, so obviously times to be intimate are a little bit hard to come by, right? We have to actually.
I know the feeling. I have 2 daughters. I get it completely.
Exactly. You have to make an effort, right? You have to okay, the baby's asleep right now. Let's, It's not just another thing too. I think that there's a misconception perhaps by some of the female population is that it's not just about the orgasm. It really isn't. It's the skin on skin contact. It's the intimacy. It's the closeness. It's the warmth of that person's body. It's not just the end result of what is the intimate act itself. And when you have that, I mean, look, I still see plenty of attractive women out, especially where I work. There's no shortage of them, I assure you. Yep. And thoughts might come up. Oh, well, yeah, for a quick second. Oh, okay, great. But honestly, my thoughts go right back to my wife.
Yep.
There's no way I'm going to jeopardize what I have.
Exactly. This is a funny thing, right? If a man believes that his relationship is strong, he doesn't want to cheat, not because he doesn't have a desire. Of course he does. It's biological. Of course he does. He doesn't want to lose his relationship. That's why he doesn't. He's afraid of losing his relationship. But no, of course, a man, no matter what, is going to have desire to have another woman. Of course. And someone will tell you that, they're lying to you. Of course.
And vis-a-vis.
Yes. And if a woman gets mad at that, the woman is immature. And if you get mad at a man saying, of course I think she's hot, you are immature. Not insecure. That's a dumb thing. You're mature. You should be, yeah, of course. You think she's hot. Great. But that's it. Done. Move on. That's all. You said it. You move on. It's over. That's it. And I think that's a common thing. You're exactly right. When the relationship is strong, and again, this goes back to what Victoria's talking about. How do you make that happen on an app? If I go on the app, and the worst part is now people are doing a hookup culture. So now I'm on the app and I'm like, hey, can you come over my house or whatever? So she just wants to be connected to a man. He wants to be connected to a woman. She comes over. They have sex. There's no connection. He doesn't care. He's like, thanks, that was wonderful. Next. Versus dating, meeting, and then having a connection. And now when they have sex, he's like, I would like that again from you. Versus that was goodbye, right? It's a whole different way of looking at it.
Yeah, and with how women are looking at men's profiles and looking for like a top tier, however that woman defines top tier. So my top tier might be different than someone else's top tier, but however they're viewing that, because for a lot of men, like we said, the ratio is skewed. So you have men who have all these options and men who don't. But for the woman who's liking the guy who might have a lot of options, she doesn't necessarily know that, but he does. But she's thinking like, wow, like this might be a thing. Like this guy that checks off all the boxes of the things I want. I'm going to use a stereotypical thing. He's a doctor, whatever it is. Whatever. He comes from a good family, blah, 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 whatever that is for that person. So now she's thinking like, oh, like this might be a thing. And then for him, it's just like, okay, bye, see ya. And I'm going to ghost this person because I got to get back to the app and all my other people. That's when things start to get skewed in that way. And by not, I'm not saying that women aren't sexual too. It's not that, but I think, and it could work the other way around. A guy could like a girl on an app and be like, wow, she's like my dream girl, this is amazing.
Okay,
and
that happens all the time.
She's the one, and then she just ghosts him too. So I think that's happening a lot. People are getting their hopes up, and it's that they don't realize they're a dime a dozen to that person.
But here's the issue to remember though, right? When a guy goes on an app, unless he's a 10, if he's a 10, he gets tons of attention. If he's not a 10, he gets almost none. Like he only gets 1 or 2 matches, maybe. He doesn't get many matches. So when he gets one, it's a big deal. But Brandi said it. She has tons of them. It isn't just Brandi. Most women, you go on an app, you get tons of guys matching with you. It's not, you're like, oh. So here's the worst part to your point, Victoria. So I'm a woman and I'm an average woman. I'm not amazing. I'm an average woman. All of a sudden I got 20 guys who are matching me. I think I'm a 10. You're not a 10. You're not a 10. You're still the same 6 or 7 you were, but you now think you're a 10. So now you think you deserve a 10 male. Well, you're not going to get a 10 male. So when you go up to the 10 male, he looks at you and goes, well, it's a slow night. I guess I'll invite you over I'm not joking. He does what he thinks. I guess I'll take a 6. I usually get 8s and 9s. I'll take a 6 tonight. It's Thursday. So I'll take a 6. The 6 thinks, see, I can get a 10 male. Good. I saw this in the 80s in the Marine Corps. Why do I say that? When I was in the Marine Corps in the 80s, women couldn't be in combat at all. So there were very few women in the Marine Corps. There are more now, but there were very few. So when one female Marine would be around the Marine Corps, all the men would be after her. Because when I was, my first job, my first 3 years in the Marine Corps, it was only men. I was in the ground side. I was in infantry and I was in artillery. So there was only men. So when a woman came in, like, oh, a woman, oh my God, a woman. So every female who Marine came in thought she was a 10. Some were 10s, some were 3s, but they all thought they were 10s, no matter what they were, because they were getting so much attention. And I see the same thing happening on the apps. Women now think they're all 10s because they're getting so much attention. And some of them are 10s, and some of them aren't.
But I've experienced, so I've when I was a dating consultant, I've actually experienced this from like a guy side where I had clients that had a lot of money. And so, and they would like come to me and they were like, they had like these like prerequisites. They were like, basically they wanted a gold digger without saying that they wanted a gold digger. They're like, we don't want a gold digger, but they do want a gold digger. Cause they like wouldn't be very attractive, but like would have a lot of money and all of these other things. And so, so they were still they wanted a 10. These people wanted like the physical 10, but because they thought that that's what they deserved with like the wealth that they had and everything. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, you want a gold digger, because that's what, if you want someone of that caliber, when you aren't of that caliber and you're going like, that's the only way to make that happen. I'm not a magician. Like, we're going to find you a gold digger. Like, but they wanted it to live in a delusion that the girl wasn't dating them for their money. I don't know. So I feel like that's kind of the equivalent of that in the opposite direction.
Mike says, God, some Marine bases had a 40-to-1 ratio, and those women could get anyone. That was late 80s. Mike and I were both in the Marine Corps at the same time. So that's how we know we're both Marines at the same time. So he knows exactly what I'm talking about. 40-to-1 ratio or more. I mean, yes, he's right. Yes.
But even we were talking a little bit about like the workplace and dating in the workplace, and it's being frowned upon. A lot of relationships or office flirting or whatever is similar in the sense that you're around the person every day.
Yeah.
You might be around like the same 20 people, and now like they're like work hot. Like they're like if you went out into the real world, they actually, I don't even like this person, but it's like it's almost like, you know, when people go into prison and they do things that they typically wouldn't do, it's like because they're in that world. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, because you're getting to know all these other aspects of them. So it's not a bad thing necessarily. But the relationship is just like cultivated differently.
Yes.
I think the only issue
comments, if I could, real fast. Missy says, "I love that song." She liked Mr. Roboto too. So yes, absolutely. Let's see if I can do this real fast. Let's see here. Shelly says, "I voted the male equivalent of a 10 because I thought they all were wanted by everyone." Ooh, interesting. There we go. It's kind of an interesting thing. So yeah. So I guess the question I'm going to bring up though is how does Gen Z handle this? Right? I mean, I know it's tough also for millennials and even Gen Xers, because a lot of Gen Xers are getting divorced now. Right? So a lot of Gen Xers are getting divorced now. And they think the same thing. All the Gen Xers think I can leave my husband or wife because the grass is greener. All these men and women are going to be there for me. They think that too, right? So Gen Xers are all getting divorced. Sadly, it's much better for men, Gen Xers getting divorced, than it's for women, because a lot of young women are dating older men. So they have a better shot in today's world. The women, not as much. They have a tougher shot than the men do. But both think they're going to all of a sudden just, now we're good. So I think it is happening. The question is, how do they deal with this, right? I mean, what are they going to do, right? And if, sorry, Joe says 20-something women are going for 40-something dudes. I feel my second win. You go, Joe. You go. So yes. Yeah. So how do they, Brandi? What should they be doing? How do they, or they just screwed? Is it just, it's over, it's done?
Oh, I'm a firm believer, and I think we need to bring back like events and having people meet people in person and like networking events and stuff like that. I don't think the dating apps, as I said, I think people are already getting burnt out. So I stream video games. I talk to a lot of Gen Zers. It doesn't even seem like most of them enjoy. I think that the dating apps are definitely, because for some people they are successful, but for some people they are successful, but I just think for the majority, it's not a net. I don't think it's been a net positive for society. I'll say that. I really don't. I don't think so. Yeah,
but I agree.
But you know, like it has. Yeah, I think that there's good, but I think like bringing back people meeting in person, meeting at work though. I have dated someone that from work before. The only issue with doing that is that if it doesn't work out, it's really awkward and can be very detrimental to your job. So I think like meeting people like at work sometimes isn't, like maybe meeting people at like work events, meeting their friends or whatever might be better, but meeting someone that you work with and dating them, it can work, but like it can also end very badly and be detrimental to your job.
Adam agrees with you. He says dating apps are scams. He agrees with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think going to events where like you have interests too. Like for example, I met my boyfriend at a libertarian event at PorkFest. You know, like you can.
Wait a minute. You met a libertarian at Whoa.
Yeah.
It worked. Yes. I like that. Very good.
I feel like if you have certain interests, you go to places where you're going to meet people with those interests or people that you want. Like if you're into art, go to art events. If you're into music, go to music shows. Like go to these places to meet people. Places that are loud are hard.
Here's an issue.
But
what's happening though right now, I think you're right. The question is, how do we get young men out there? Because the events are starting to happen. I think you're right, Brandi. It is starting to happen. The problem is the men aren't showing up.
I think COVID definitely caused some social anxiety for a lot of people. For me, I did. Like I think that I struggled to get out of my bubble once I was put into it because I live in Boston, so I was like forced into a bubble. I think that it's just like how to get men out there.
They're not
They
showing up.
gotta just do it. They gotta just do it. Like, get some balls. Like, that's literally it. I genuinely think that's the answer.
That is a thing that women always say to men, and it never works.
No, but I think men have to say it, not women.
Get your balls.
No, not women. I don't think that women should say it. I think other men need to say it, like their guy friends.
But they are. But when they do, women get mad at them. When the Andrew Tates of the world show up and go, "Men, get strong."
Yeah,
there's other reasons why I don't like him.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much of an overcorrection that happens, but I also think, so for example, there's been many times I've been up in a public place, like let's say it's like a coffee place or something like that, and like I'll see someone and I'll be like trying to like have like open body language or like walk past or whatever. I'm like, does he see me? But like the person doesn't come over, and it's not necessarily maybe just doesn't like me, but it's more of like our society, and maybe it's also a metropolitan area thing too. I don't know, where people are just kind of like head down doing their thing.
My last girlfriends I picked up. I picked up my last girlfriends in a parking lot. I picked them up in a library. I'm not joking. I've been picking up girls at supermarket. I can pick up any girl, I don't care. I'll pick up anywhere. It isn't that. But I've noticed it, even in my own neighborhood. I walk in my neighborhood. I say hi to everybody in the neighborhood. Men, women, always. Men always give me a nod. I go, what's up? He goes, I'll get a nod. Women consistently ignore me. Consistently. And the point is, okay, you might go, Larry, you're ugly or whatever. Maybe, but to every one of them, come on. One of them doesn't think I'm ugly. I mean, just odds. One of them doesn't, but it doesn't matter. They just don't. They just ignore me.
I also think women should be able to come and approach men as well. Like, I can't give. That's the thing. Like, men kind of have to tell men like how to handle this situation, because I feel like advice coming from a woman doesn't really land. You know, a lot of times. So for me, also as women, like, hey, it's 2023. We can also approach men that we are attracted to. I know that we enjoy being approached and all that stuff, but I'm actually usually a very forward person. So if I find someone attractive and if they're not making the move, I'll make the move. I've got no shame in my game. If I get turned down, it's fine. So like, I think that there is also just like women have to kind of, a guy's not going to be mad at you if you hit on them, like, ever. So like, he's not going to, even if he's not interested, he's going to be flattered. At the very least.
Well, I think there's an aspect here that, I think there's two aspects here that we're not, probably talking about. When it comes to young men having the courage, the balls, if you will, to go out and just be out, like, forget being out and actually talking to someone of the opposite sex and having that kind of courage, just being out in public. Yeah. Well, let's look at Larry, you mentioned it before. Let's look at the divorce rates. Let's look at how many single parent homes, and honestly, more times than not, if it's a single parent household, it's a single mom raising children, not a single father. It just, the percentage wise are completely lopsided. So who is it that they can turn to in their inner circle?
67%. It's about 2/3 women, single women, about a little less than about 30%, give or take, are male households. About 70% are female households. Yeah, you're right.
That's actually higher than I thought. I thought it'd be more like 80-20. But if there's nobody around
recently, because the judges have been changing recently, giving it more to the men.
More rights
the women are not. The women have been broken. The women are having horrible problems with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, self-medication. Right now, women are getting the COVID lockdowns destroyed women this time, like there was no tomorrow. It just devastated them. Women are having alcohol abuse like they've never had across this country. Men went to drugs, so did women, but women went to alcohol. So the women who are abusing drugs and self-medicating has been a bigger problem. So judges have actually had to give it to the men because there just simply hasn't been a woman there. So that's been happening more.
Yeah. So let's take a situation where a young man doesn't have a male role model to show them the ropes, if you will. And now listen, pornography has always existed, but that's the other elephant in the room here when it comes to young men not having courage to go out of the 100%. House and actually do something, because when they have such unlimited access to pornography, it is, I'm not talking out of my rear end here. You can look up the studies. Scott Galloway, if you know who he is. Not that I'm a big fan of his, but he is right on this particular.
No, he wrote a book on this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. when you talk about that, and when they try to sit there and compare themselves, right, to what they see on a pornography website, and the men that are in that and their genitalia versus their genitalia, and they,
And their
just
physical
just do this,
bodies.
boom, boom, boom. Exactly.
Yeah.
So wait, I'm supposed to do that? Like I'm supposed to last a half an hour. I'm supposed to do like, and if I'm not that, then what? Then
and if I can't physically pick her up with one hand and spin her around like a pizza,
right,
I'm not good enough because I'm not tough and man enough because I can't do that because this guy's freaking 6'8" and he's a monster and I got to be that guy. Yeah, right. I agree.
This has to be, the good thing is that history does repeat itself. And the bad thing is history does repeat itself.
Right.
But
right.
Things are circuitous. And I think that we're going to hopefully see a swing back to, and I hate to use the cliche, more traditional values, but having two people in a home, and you don't have to be married per se. Truth be told, my wife and I are not legally married because for a multitude.
Smart move.
Thank you. For a multitude of reasons. Okay. But the only reason why we're married is because we wanted the same things. We both wanted children. We wanted a family. And what's shocking to me, and at 43, I have 5 people in this world that I consider friends. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections. There's only like 5 or 6 people that I consider close to my heart that are pretty much family at this point. Larry, I'm the only one married with kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understand? Yes.
Yeah. I'm so happy you brought that up, Angelo, because prior to this conversation, I was thinking about, what we might talk about and kind of where the conversation might go, and the marriage rate being down, the rate of having children being down. To me, it really does actually overlap with the career world, which is why I get like all excited about it excited in a passionate because it's messed up way. A lot of this is also economic. So whether it's male, female, doesn't matter. But if you are Gen Z, millennial, and you are living at home with your parents or for extended period of time, or you're going back and forth with your parents, you have roommates, you can't afford to stay in the place where you want to stay. Like, let's say you're moving out of New York, which for me, the majority of the friends that I grew up with, meaning like went to college, undergrad with, all left New York except for 2 of them because they just straight up couldn't afford it. So that's a huge, huge issue. And then if you are a man, that could definitely impact your sense of masculinity, your ego. And then there's just the practical part of where you do bring a girl if you don't have a place that you're proud of to bring the girl.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Huge. But then also, I mean, a lot of girls are in the same situation and they feel like, oh, I live with my parents, or I don't have like the best place where I live and I feel embarrassed about that. So there's a lot of just like kind of feeling shame in the sense of like,
but that's not fair because men don't care about where you live. Men, they don't. There's an old joke about Beyonce and Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z would pick Beyonce out if she was working at Burger King. Beyonce would never pick up Jay-Z if he was working at Burger King, right? Would never happen. So the other economic part I think you're missing here is it used to be that men were here and women were here.
Yeah.
Now it's like here. And if it's under 30, women are actually beating men. Any wage gap that may have been under 30 that no longer exists. Women are beating men under 30. They're more educated, making more money. They actually have a higher chance of getting hired, not lower, higher chance of getting hired, higher chance of getting the right job. They're winning in every way. Well, the problem is women still want men above them.
Right.
So now I've got the women coming up. The amount of men who are above women is shrinking.
Absolutely.
So now that women wanting all those men who are above them, that pool is shrinking. Now they're all fighting over a shrinking pool because so many women will not. In fact, there's a point where, and you know this, I'm sure, Victoria, there are a lot of women who will not date a man, regardless of income, if he doesn't have a college degree. They think they think that he's beneath them. That's a common problem. He could actually make more money than her, but not a college degree. So and Brandi, I agree with you. I think that's silly. But it doesn't matter if it's silly. It's still true.
Well, I was gonna say that. So one thing is, my brother is like an exception to this rule, but like he lived with my mom like within to his early 20s, saved up enough money, got a house, got a good job, like he's blue collar worker, but and like my mom was a single mom at the time. But like I also think, and I have almost all my friends are either married or in like pretty serious relationships. I have some friends that aren't, but some guy friends, and some of my guy friends that aren't live with their parents, but they don't like save money or do anything. And like, that's the thing. If you can actually utilize that. You're not paying rent. Like if you live with your parents, save money, get a good job. If you don't have a college degree, blue collar workers can make a lot of money. Like
100%.
you find a trade, do something. Like I think that's the thing. It's like these men act like they're hopeless. Because so I'm very big advocate on personal responsibility. Like you need to be take responsibility for yourself, men and women. Got to take responsibility for yourself. And I think that like you might be like, oh, I live with my husband, I can't get a girl. You know what? Don't even focus on a girl right now. Focus on getting your shit together. And then when you get your shit together, focus on getting a girl. Like get like the Jordan Peterson thing, clean your room.
Well, I think Juan agrees with you. He says, Brandi's right. Men have to man up. My advice to younger guy friends is to be confident when talking to women. Women smell desperation in a guy. It's a turnoff. Well, there we go. Yeah. But I think you're right. But this is my worry, Brandi. And I try to do this when I mentor young men. Your point is right on point. They feel, why bother? Right? Why bother? I'm never going to get a woman. No woman's ever going to like me. Why bother? They feel hopeless. We've got to give them hope. You're right. They've got to believe that there is a woman out there for them that will accept if they get their stuff together. But they often think, why bother? No woman's going to want me, so I'll just stay around and play, video games all day. Who cares?
Well, I think this like internet perception that has like come somewhat from the white red pill, somewhat from people like Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, is being like, all women suck. All women just want you for your money. All women are going to just divorce you and leave you. All women are all of these things. And like, that message is actually making guys want to opt out, I think. There's a reason why MGTOW exists. Like, yes, there's some truth to it. There is some truth. I'm not going to say that there isn't. But you also can't just live in this, not all women, okay? Just like not all men, not all women. Like, there are women out there that are good women. And yeah, you might have to, throw some darts for a while to find the one, but like, that's okay. But if you're young, you've got time. I don't think that there's any reason for you to like be in your early 20s and freaking out if you don't like, and to be fair, if you look at divorce statistics, getting married before the age of 25, you actually have an over 50% chance of getting divorced within 10 years. And it goes like, that's the statistic. Like, it's actually not the best to get married super young. And then or super old. It's kind of like, there's like the little middle area where it's like the sweet spot. So
but I gotta touch what Angelo talked about. Two things he brought up. One was the divorce rate, which I think that also gives people a lot of, I talk about family law all the time, right? Because the family court system in America is an embarrassment. Like, we should really be embarrassed by how bad our family court system is. It encourages people to lie, to be nasty. Most of these judges are pieces of garbage. I don't care if most of them are. And most of these lawyers who are in family court are terrible human beings. I mean, most of them are. Not all, you find good ones, but most of them just are terrible. And all they're trying to do is literally do things like, how much money do you have? That's how much it costs. They just want to take all your money. That's all they want. So kids have seen, and they watch their image of manhood and womanhood just tear each other to pieces. They've watched it and they go, I don't want that. Why would I want that? That's a terrible idea. My mother has told me that my father's a piece of garbage. My mother's a piece of garbage. Well, then why the hell do I want to get married when both my parents tell me the other one's a piece of garbage?
Yeah. And I mentor a lot of people in the Gen Z population. And I'm amazed by how many of them, and of course, this is not like every single Gen Z person ever, so it's in my bubble, but I'm amazed by how many of them aren't going out there and dating. I'm shocked by it. A lot of them are, I know people who are dating the same person that they met at like first year orientation, and they're still dating that person. And I'm like, society would have you believe that that's the time when everyone's doing everything, but that's not happening right now with this generation. And if I've asked questions like, why do you think that is? And they have said that we've seen horrible divorces, like our parents, our friends, and they're clinging to security. So it's not even a matter of like I'm finding the right person necessarily. It's like, oh, I have a bond with the person, like let's build on that, because I'm terrified of divorce.
Yes.
Well, millennials have the lowest divorce rate, but they're also less likely to get married. So like, I think that this is the thing, is like, because millennials are afraid of marriage or they're afraid of making the wrong decision. And but I don't know if I think that that's entirely a bad thing. Like, maybe it is okay for people to like wait a little bit and like figure it out and all of that. But if they are getting like what you're saying, it's not good if they're just like clinging to that one like high school sweetheart and not like branching out. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I can't tell if that's a good or a bad thing. It's like a mix.
Joe says, why get the government involved in an otherwise great relationship?
Yes. 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 If I may though,
please.
One thing I can say from, my experience with my wife, and she's 10 years younger than me. So, smart on my, this kind of goes to what you're saying, the 20-year-old, if you will, whatever, 20, 30-year-olds are going for older men.
Common thing.
When it comes to having children, I can tell you, and I see it because my brother had children later in life as well. And he has a girl and a boy, and they're beautiful. I love my nieces and my nephew. And me having my first kid at 43. Now, my wife's 33, so she's a little bit younger. She's got a little bit more energy. We can't deny Mother Nature. We have to accept reality for what it is. We're not really meant to have children. Women are not really meant to have children in their late 30s, 40 years old. That just isn't the case. Yes, you do have children. Yes, it is possible, especially with medical help, with IVF and such things like that. But it's not just that reason. It's the energy. Your body bounces back better. That is the truth. Women concern themselves, and I've heard this verbatim from two of my very close girlfriends, why they, at this point, because now they're 40, they've just given up on having kids because they're worried about their body.
Common problem.
They're worried about, well, what's it going to well, when you're 22, your body bounces back a heck of a lot faster than when you're 40. So again, it's kind of a quagmire. It's a bit of a catch-22. It's like, yes, we want people to have solid, meaningful relationships, and those things can take, in fact, take time. We don't want them to get married too soon, but at the same time, if you want family and you want children, which I encourage all of you, don't get me wrong, I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted a family.
I got two. You don't got to encourage me. I did it already. I'm done. I got two already. You're going to give me more now.
Yeah, right. More. Exactly. Yeah, have a few more.
Actually, Angelo, let me step in you for a second.
Yeah.
I'm past 50. I would still have more children. I still would. I still would. I have the energy. You see how energetic I am. I would still.
This is true.
I've been on a keto diet for 13 years. That's why I stay so thin. But yes, so I mean, I still have energy. I would have more kids again. I totally would. And my kids are 19 and 13. And I would still have more kids again. I absolutely would. I'd have 2-3 more. I wouldn't think twice.
My mom had me when she was in her late 30s, and then she adopted 3 more after. Like in her 40s. She just kept, she couldn't have any more, so she just got more.
I'm getting them anyway, damn it. I'm getting them anyway.
So I don't know. She seemed to think that she had enough energy. She's still spicy.
I can only speak from my own experience and just witnessing my brother. It makes it even harder.
I think your point is a valid one. And I do think there's a big thing. A lot of women are getting their eggs frozen because they're worried. It's a big deal. I think you're right. And my worry with this is that this is bad. There's a stat I heard. I don't know if it's true, but people talk about it on the internet saying like by 2030, over 50% of women over 40 will be childless. And of those 50%, of those 50% of women, more than 50% will be that. 80% it will be not voluntarily. Right. 10% are unable to have it, and 10% don't want it. And 80% actually wanted children, but just never found the right partner to have children with.
Yeah,
so I do think it's a problem.
Yeah, I think it's a huge misconception when people talk about people not having kids, whether it's a man or a woman. Like a lot of it gets thrown out there as, like the comedian Chelsea Handler, for example, which is like fine if you want that to be your life. You're like, I'm gung ho. This is not for me. Like more power to you. But I think society, media thinks like, well, and any man or woman without a child didn't want it. But it's like for a lot of people, it's just life just kind of unraveled that way or unfolded that way. And it does overlap with going back to economics and everything and careers. We're spending that chunk of our lives so stressed out with the cost of living, housing, education, building your career, changing jobs, all these different things, that it's not necessarily that people don't want marriage and kids and all of that, but it's like all the hoops you have to jump through to get the American dream, like the 1950s vision of the American dream, is on such a prolonged time scale. And if you're lucky, you even get it. So by the time you know yourself, you meet people, you could afford a place to live, and like you're kind of at a place where you could add that on, it is later in life. And then you add on, people are
there's an interesting thing you might like that you might know about this. There was actually a mini baby boom during COVID. And what was the mini baby boom in? It was in one type of person, the professional managerial class woman.
That makes sense.
Able to stay home, to your point, and still make good money from home. And so wait a minute, so I can make this money and not have to grind? And if I have a baby, I can actually be with my baby? And there was a mini baby boom because they're like, oh, good. I get to make the money, have my career, and have a baby. Win, win, win. Which is
my wife works from home.
Bingo.
It's huge. Yes. It's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit. I mean, there's pros and cons with remote work, blah, 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 all of that. But the reality is, especially for women, it's a game changer for so many people if you could do that.
I think that's I've been saying that for a while. I think that's like the huge pro of remote work is the fact that like if you do want to have children, you can stay home. I do think that like it's not like the huge issue is the economic issue because like people say that like, oh, go back to trad values where like you have the provider husband and then the woman that stays home. But like right now, I don't think that we're in an economic place where
100%
possible unless the guy's making mad bread. Like, it's not that easy. So remote work is a game changer for that.
Yeah. No,
Adam says, we grab a couple comments if we could. Adam says, nearly every guy in my family has been divorced. As far as the 1900s, as far as I know, I'm the only exception, and that's because I'm not married in the first place. That is massive divorce. Oh my God, that's a big deal.
Boomers have the highest divorce rate. Actually.
Here we go. Yeah. Roger says, half of my generation, Generation X, was first to go through what millennials and Gen Z are suffering from now with income inequality, never being able to get a paycheck above the cost of living, never being able to get a place of their own. I think it's a valid point, right? And you brought this up, Victoria, the idea of a lot of men and women don't feel that they can get a place in their own, right? And Brandi, you brought it up. Now, I mean, if I can't get out and do these things, I feel like I'm hopeless. Why bother? I think it's a really good point. I think Roger brings up a very good point.
And the salaries people make, if you just from a percentage wise, has not gone up generally. Has not gone up since the 1970s. So the number might have gone up, but based on the ratio, it has not gone up. But everything else has. So if you were I'm just going to make up these numbers. If you were a man in making $50,000 years ago and you were able to buy a house for $200,000 and afford that, and the woman could work or not work, have kids and take care of them, whatever. And I'm not saying women should or shouldn't work, but that paradigm, like you're saying, Brandi, about like, the traditional thing, is like for a lot of people, that is an aspirational thing. Yes. So in the past, when you think of like in the 1960s and the 1970s, in terms of the feminist movement at that time, the people at the forefront were upper middle class wealthy women that they were like, oh, our husbands are doing these like intellectually stimulating white collar jobs. I want to do that type of thing too. Women have always worked. Like the idea of women working, like my ancestors worked in factories. Women always worked. So the whole concept of like women wanting to work, it was more of like the desirable jobs that were more of like an intellectually self-actualized type of job.
Yeah.
But that was in an era where one salary could support a household. So now it's the idea of being a housewife for a lot of people now, and you're actually seeing this as a trend a lot on social media with millennials and Gen Z, where people are saying like, wait, like, can I be a housewife? Is that even an option? Like, it seems like this luxurious thing. People say things like a Pilates princess and things like that. Like being like that woman that's taking like a Pilates class in the middle of the day and she's like taken care of. Like, that's seen as like not oppression. That's seen as like you won the lottery.
So let me, before we go on, I want to grab a bunch more comments. But first, Brandi, do me a favor. I'm going to ask each of you, what are you guys doing coming up here? Let people know what you're doing, what they should be looking for. Brandi, tell everybody what you're doing, what we should be looking for. Okay,
I have a podcast called Cognitive Vigilance on YouTube and Twitch. You can find me on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at Creatrix_TTV. And I also play video games on Twitch at Creatrix. And yeah, I play Civ. I'm going to try to get Larry to play with me one of these days.
I love it. Absolutely. Victoria, tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, so if you check out Brooklyn Ivy League, you'll see the products that we're coming out with. So we have the networking guide, but also other practical things like resume, cover letter, interview coaching, so mock interviews, personality assessments, one-on-one coaching, personal branding, all of that. And that will also include a Substack where there'll be articles on a lot of these topics, so where the career world and influences the personal world as well. So that's just go to Brooklyn Ivy League and you'll see all that.
Here we go. Angelo, tell us what you're doing.
Well, as of probably the first of the new year, we're actually going over the contract tomorrow in more detail, but I will be buying in a 10% equity position in an existing restaurant. Nice. When that actually does go through, I'll give you the information and then you can blast that out for me.
Excellent.
For those that visit the Scottsdale area, Arizona, that is. We are a booming economy out here in the Valley, just if you haven't heard. And in the meantime, hey, I've got my Twitter page or X, whatever you want to call it.
I love it.
Libertarian REA3. But a little bit of irony would be the moment I do this, I'm probably going to delete my page. That's probably
There we go.
All comes full circle.
Probably going to happen.
There we go. It all comes back.
Probably going to happen.
That. Let me grab a couple comments if I could. Juan says, I didn't think a Gen Z relationship show would be so thought-provoking. Great show tonight. Yay. Look at that. We did something good. I like that. We did good. So yes. Let me grab a couple more of these if I could. Adam says we got to have kids because we can't let the Mormons win, damn it. Can't let the Mormons win.
They have multiple wives though, so like they've kind of got one ahead of us, right?
They do. That's an advantage they have. It's true.
Polygyny.
Yeah, I don't know how they're affording the multiple wives. Like before I'd be like,
they're
oh my
in
God,
Utah.
Like, is that cost of living? That's a good point.
Everyone's very small.
Absolutely. Michael agrees. He says the U.S. population is already unsustainable. In fact, first world countries are having this problem due to a lack of connection and online dependency, I think. So I think the one thing that we talked about more than anything here was the idea that we got to start connecting more, whether that was being out, talking, connection. That was, I think, the common denominator is that we all want to be connecting more and connecting more. That's a positive thing, right? Mm-hmm. There we go. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for giving me so much of your time this evening. Everyone else, thank you so much for watching for 2 hours. I kept you guys for 2 hours. Thank you for all the time you gave me. I appreciate it. Please follow these people. They gave us so much love. Give them some love. If you haven't clicked like, I don't know why you hate me. Click like, damn it, do it. Right? Please do it. It does matter. That's why I say do it. Do it. It does matter so people do this more.